Hello there, I'm Tom Wiggins.
And I'm Emily Elias, and this is Desert Island Dips, the podcast where we pit condiment against condiment and ask, if you were trapped on a desert island, which 5 dips would you bring with you?
So last time we added mayo. We've got that nestled in the sand on the island.
The edge of the island?
On the edge, so the sea can lap up against it, keep it cool. And ketchup next to it as well, that went in the first week. This week, we're going to talk about the condiment that is so confident in its abilities to spice up your food that it doesn't even have like a proper name. It's like the sort of Adele or Kylie of the condiment world. It's just called brown sauce. That's just what it is. What is that? It's brown, and its sauce is brown sauce. Something that I learned today, if you are a person that is known by just one single name, you're mononymous.
Phenomena.
No, mononymous, as in anonymous, but with an M on the front, basically.
So Madonna is...
Mononymous.
Madonna.
Anonymous. Madonna.
Beyonce.
Sting, Beyonce. They are mononymous. So this is sort of mononymous, except brown sauce is 2 words. So it's bi-anonymous. Anyway.
Can we start out this podcast with a small confession that might blow your mind?
Are you going to say this already?
I have never eaten brown sauce before. So I can't come into this with any form of opinion already. I'm a blank canvas for you to win over.
And the best thing is all of this is brand new information.
Brand new information to me and a brand new sauce to me. I'm Canadian. It was not a thing that was in my cupboard growing up, and I just never...
It's lucky that I've bought some for you to try. 2 different types, in fact. HP sauce, as we...
Are we getting into the history now?
Yes, we'll start with history. HP sauce, according to Heinz, which owns HP sauce now, the name was registered in 1895. Heinz, however, say 1899, but I'm going with when the name was registered. What we actually need to do, though, is go before that to find out where brown sauce comes from.
Are we going to hop in the Tom Wiggins time machine?
We are again, as we do every week, pretty much, it seems. Every other week. Your time machine the other weeks. As a sort of generic brown sauce without a kind of... when it was just brown sauce, when HP wasn't around, where there were other brands around, it's believed to be a few years older than that. So it was a popular sauce used... Back in the days when there were horse-drawn carriages going around London, there were these little shacks, like cafes, that they would stop off at. And each one would have a slightly different version of brown sauce that they would use to put on their food. That was probably thinner, a bit like Liam Perrin's. And then they sort of basically, people started to come out with their own versions of it. People added more fruit to it, and it became thicker and thicker. And then you've got this whole new sort of genre of brown sauce. You've got your Liam Perrin's over here, and you've got your thicker ones over here.
So it kind of almost started out like how you would think about putting a vinegar on a sort of...
as a much more liquidy.
Yeah, a very viscous fluid, and then evolved into this sort of thick sludge of brown.
As pretty much as it is now, I believe, yeah. The first thick brown sauce was by somebody called Henderson Brand, which in 1862, it was called A1 sauce, which I think is quite nice. About 20 years later, you could do a whole episode on this, I think, if I found out some more. His nephew...
We could do a whole episode if I found out some more.
Well, on this particular beef.
Okay.
Maybe even a film. His nephew, George Mason, launched his own version of brown sauce, which was even thicker again, called OK Sauce, which I've checked. You can still buy something called OK Sauce. It's made by Coleman's these days. But you can get it on Amazon. You can get a subscription of it on Amazon. A1 sauce. If I'd known beforehand, I would have got some, but it's not one of my 2 that I brought with me. So these days, I would say that HP sauce.
I think that's the brand standard.
The one it's like the Tannoy or the Tarmac or the Portaloo, as in it's a brand of brown sauce. You can't refer to all brown sauces as HP sauce. That's just not correct. But that's how it sort of functions these days, doesn't it?
But if you're going to a restaurant, you're on the table, it's generally your HP sauce brand.
Yeah. And if you're not, then you're like, don't know if I want to eat here.
And for our international audience, I know there are a lot of Canadians listening.
I wonder how that happened.
How that happened, I have no idea. How ubiquitous is this sauce in the UK? It's everywhere, right?
It is everywhere, yeah. I think, it's the brown ketchup, basically. Which I don't know why they've never used as one of their marketing terms. Anyway, an advert for HP sauce from 1934 calls it the 4th condiment, which I think is interesting, considering what we're doing. But the 3 it lists 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3 before the 4th. salt, pepper, and mustard. And we've kind of decided that salt and pepper are seasonings, not condiments.
Yes, salt and pepper don't make it.
So maybe it's the second condiment, as far as we're concerned. Let's not muddy the order of ketchup, mayo. It's the third. Let's stick with the third. HP sauce, though, as we know it, started life in Nottingham. A guy called Frederick Gibson Garton. I mean, you don't really know what it is, so I should probably explain. It's basically made of vinegar, dates, tomato, tamarind, and spices in inverted commas. That's clearly where that's where the magic happens. That mix of spices.
Dates. I had no idea. That is the dates. What gives it its brown sort of like consistency.
I suppose. Well, vinegar.
Yeah, and
other brown things. Yeah. It's kind of unclear whether it was called HP sauce to begin with, or whether it was Garton sauce. I've seen adverts that say Garton's HP sauce on them, but the whole HP thing apparently comes around from in around 1900. He found out that it was like a big hit in the Houses of Parliament. This sauce, they were putting it on everything, in the canteen, I'm guessing.
So the House of Lords, the MPs,
when they were reclining at lunchtime,
yeah,
retiring at lunchtime, they were whacking HP sauce. Well, whether it was called HP sauce then or not, I'm not sure. But then he found this out, and clearly one of the forefathers of modern marketing. He was like, well, I'm gonna big up the whole HP thing and say it's Houses of Parliament. And he put the picture of the Houses of Parliament on the bottle.
See, that kind of surprises me because I always thought it was called HP sauce, kind of like a play on the bottle, because the bottle kind of looks like it could be
it
like
looks a bit like Big Ben.
Yeah, like Elizabeth Tower or whatever. Big Ben is
Big Ben's
like
the bell. Yeah. Frankenstein. Sharp.
Nerd stuff. But that's what I thought. Like they modeled it after that, and they were like trying to play off of sort of like the Britishness
because of the squareness of it and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's always been square. It's difficult to tell.
I think we might have like a chicken and egg situation here, where
Which
it's like
came first,
the
HP
name
sauce?
or the bottle.
Oh, right.
Like
which came sauce, HP sauce or the Houses of Parliament?
I throw my hands up.
Well, I've explained. Another nice little bit of trivia from its relationship to the corridors of power. In the mid-60s, I think it was 64, when Harold Wilson was the Prime Minister, it came out for an interview that his wife did that he used to put it on everything, apparently. So it developed then within the population developed the nickname Wilson's Gravy, which sounds like a horrendous nickname. I'm sorry, euphemism for something.
That sounds like a reason he's been in the bathroom for too long.
Yeah,
not.
I've had to throw your trousers out. There's like Wilson's Gravy stains all over them, and I can't get it out. So that's kind of horrible. There is an alternative version, which apparently is to be treated with some skepticism, and that's that it was actually invented by a guy called Harry Palmer in Epsom, and he called it Harry Palmer's famous Epsom sauce. That was then obviously abbreviated to just HP, and then Garton sold it to Garton because he had a debt to settle.
Oh.
He basically couldn't afford to do it, so he was like, "Yeah, I'll sell you my sauce." That is to be.
But then Garton was like the better businessman and actually like popularized it, but it wasn't necessarily his recipe to begin. I guess that's the controversial part of the history. It wasn't his recipe; it was just better at marketing.
Or it's just not true at all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
six of one, half a dozen of the other.
Either way, there is a debt that comes into play in the story and the history of HP sauce. According to Heinz, which, as I've said, now owns it, Garton sold the recipe for HP sauce to Edwin Sampson Moore for 150 quid. He was the guy that ran the Midlands Vinegar Company, and then it was made in Birmingham, I believe, certainly in the Midlands, for a very, very long time after this. So we believe that bit to be true, definitely. And that's when it sort of started to be as popular and became the sauce that it is today, I think. What I find really interesting...
Go on.
Until as recently as the 1970s, brown sauce was really regionalised in the way that it was popular. So different brands of brown sauce were popular in different parts of the country.
Oh.
So in the West Country, it was Daddy's. In East and West Yorkshire, something called Fletcher's, which we don't have anymore, as far as I know anyway. In North Yorkshire, Heinz Ideal Sauce, which again, it doesn't exist anymore. And something called Hammond's Chop Sauce, also popular in North Yorkshire. And the aforementioned OK Sauce was big in London.
I'm going to throw in something that might sidetrack your entire history. So we were in Japan, and they had something on the table that looked remarkably a lot like brown sauce, but it was called restaurant sauce.
Right.
And in Japan, it's known as restaurant sauce.
When I looked for other types, quite a few like Chinese supermarkets and places like that came up as stockists of other types of brown sauce. So there's obviously, maybe we took it over there.
I would assume it has to be. It's an English.
It can't be a coincidence, can it?
No. It must
maybe
be
because we essentially stole ketchup from Southeast Asia. We were like, we've got to give something back. Brown sauce.
We've got the cousin of ketchup in all intents and purposes. Here you go, people. Enjoy your brown sauce. Now you can have the quandary of red sauce, brown sauce, no sauce.
I mean, that's kind of the history from the 70s when it was still regionalised. From then onwards, HP kind of took over as the big one. Lots of different companies have bought HP sauce or HP's sauces off them until recently when it was bought by Heinz, and now Heinz owns that and Daddy's, and they're monopolising the brown sauce market.
Did Heinz say that they changed the recipe at all when they inherited the brand, or has it been something that's been held consistently through?
They sneakily lowered the salt content recently. I can't remember exactly when, about 10 years ago, I think.
Controversial.
There's no mention of Heinz or anything on the actual bottles, but there is the by appointment to Her Majesty the Queen on the top.
Of course there is, because the Queen knows good condiments.
Exactly.
I'd love to get her on the podcast.
We could ask, couldn't we, I suppose? She's not, as if she's got anything else to do either. Like, she could spend all day we could send her the list of all our episodes. And
I bet she'd have some very strong feelings about...
I mean, the problem would be, could we really trust her integrity? Because she's going to obviously pick this because her seal of approval's on the top of the bottle.
Well, maybe we can just quiz her on how she actually decides on what her seal is going to be on what product. Because sometimes I would wonder if she was to does she sample selections of different brown sauces and then decide which one gets it? This one. Because she could be like, oh, I guess I have brand loyalty to HP, but I prefer the Fornum Mason line.
What about the OK sauce? She was thinking. But she felt that she had to go with this. And then the dastardly bar stewards, they moved it to the Netherlands, and now they make it in the Netherlands. Oh. It's not cool, is it?
Well, Brexit. It might come back.
We're going to talk about that later, actually. I was going to say those origin stories that we talked that I was saying about, different people potentially involved. I feel like there's a sort of HP sauce. Actually, it would have to be brown sauce, the movie, wouldn't it?
Okay, so you've gotten into an elevator with a big Hollywood executive. What's your elevator pitch for Brown Sauce, the movie?
I'm being very careful to start with. You can't be too careful around those guys these days.
Yeah, you've got exactly what they're after, Tom Higgins.
I have. I've got Brown Sauce, the movie. No, I think it would be perhaps a sort of Sorkin penned courtroom drama.
Right.
At least a part of it would be that. About
you're only let Aaron Sorkin write the first half of it?
No, he's writing the whole thing, but only some of it would be based in the courtroom. I think too much.
A Few Good Men sort of style.
I mean, if you're going to watch a film about condiments, you don't want to spend the whole time in the courtroom, do you? You want to spend some time in the cafe. That's quite a good tagline, is it?
We're still. I don't think we're closer to what the actual film is about.
Yeah. I think it's a kind of underdog story. You're probably rooting for Garton, but Harry Palmer, the guy that we don't know if whether he was involved or not, but you can use a bit of poetic license when you're writing films, can't you? Like that Sully, apparently loads of that was made up. We can have a sort of battle between Harry Palmer and Garton about who owns the rights to the original HP sauce.
Who's the antagonist? Who's the protagonist? So
Garton is the guy that you're rooting for.
Yeah,
we believe him to be the inventor, but then there's this person that's come along, Harry Palmer, and claims that he was the inventor. That's how we go with it. And it's like, no, you've made that up. And there's a big fight over who gets it. I mean, there could be
somebody's sister is in a love triangle.
Yeah, of course.
There's got to be some form of
I don't know who plays who. I feel like Michael Caine could be Harry Palmer. Someone else. Morgan Freeman can be the other geezer. What's his name? Garton. And there's an espionage element to it. There's a courtroom drama. Maybe it's courtroom, but with sort of civilian espionage.
Can I put a pitch in that Tom Hardy plays both roles?
Oh, nice. Well, no, he's already done it for the
Cray brothers.
The Cray one.
But just imagine Tom Hardy twice.
Yeah. And he would get to do his favourite thing of putting on voices.
Yeah.
Because he'd have to have two different voices, wouldn't he?
And he loves accents.
Also,
he loves regional accents.
Why would they look the same? That doesn't make any sense. They're not brothers.
They don't have
to. No. For me, I like the idea of maybe one of them has got a twin brother.
Okay.
And that's how we get Hardy in doing the two people.
I just really like when Tom Hardy plays multiple characters in films.
And Eddie Murphy does it well as well. So maybe he could play lots of people. Like in what was it called? Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that as well.
Okay. Well, we solved the casting dilemma that was really holding up green lighting.
The process.
Yeah. Brown Sauce the movie.
Because the backing won't be a problem financially.
Oh, clearly not. Should we move on?
Yeah. What is the? I mean, I don't know if you have the sort of capability to answer this, but what's the? I mean, I don't know if everyone realizes that you're not from here. You're from Canada.
Surprise!
What's the perception of brown sauce in Canada?
I don't really know.
So you don't know because you didn't have it.
I would feel like I'm not really a good example of a stereotypical Canadian because my mother's English. Whatever sort of weird food traditions my family had were kind of brought over from the UK. Yeah, they were brought over from the UK, and it was what access we have to things. But I think if you came from a very traditional Canadian household that was shopping at Costco or whatever.
What are you having? What are you buying?
I think that there would be HP sauce, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I think the bottom line is I don't know.
You don't know.
I have no clue.
You cannot speak on behalf of the whole of Canada.
No. Okay, unfortunately, I am only one person, and I cannot give the entire opinion of my people that I am adopted into.
I feel like I'm doing that for Britain on this podcast, so I don't see why you can't do it for Canada.
Okay, then. Canada
hates brown sauce.
Canada's just like me, and they've never had brown sauce.
Let's have a quick look. Hang on. I'm jumping to the Canada page, the Canada section of the HP Sauce Wikipedia page. HP Sauce for the Canadian market is manufactured by H.J. Heinz of North York, Ontario. That is it.
Shout out North York!
And then underneath a picture of HP Sauce accompanying lobster and steak.
That seems like a weird choice.
In a Prince Edward Island restaurant. Where's Prince Edward Island?
It's an island on the East Coast.
Well done.
Teeny tiny.
Is it? Do they do God lobster? Is that what they're famous for?
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's a weird thing to have brown sauce with.
I assumed it more again have not eaten it, but I assumed that you would pair it more with your brown meats, like your steaks.
That famous brown meats that we had, red, white, and brown meats.
I wouldn't put it with chicken. I wouldn't put it like a white meat like chicken. I wouldn't put it with.
For me, there are certain rules around what you have brown sauce with, and it's sausages.
Yeah.
It's sausage sandwiches.
Sure.
Bacon sandwiches.
Big distinguishing difference between. Yeah.
Well, some people are very much, if they're having this, then it's got to have this. But for me, it's brown sauce with those in both their regular form and their sandwich form, and that's about it. To be honest with you.
So you're not having it
it's a pork. It's basically a pork condiment for me.
So you're not. Yeah. So you're not having it with a steak.
No.
Okay.
No. I will say this right here and now, and I will put this on tape. I believe HP sauce to be my favourite condiment in the world.
Whoa!
Yeah. Just because of the fact that you haven't eaten it before. Should we do a HP sauce taste test?
Absolutely. This is what my life has been culminating to.
Right. Yeah. So what I've done is I've got two bottles here. One of your widely known and appreciated and loved HP sauce, which doesn't have the word brown anywhere on the bottle, I don't think. I won't read it all. And this is, I've never tried this before, so this is an adventure for me too. This is Tiptree's brown sauce. Obviously not HP, because it's not HP, that's a brand. And this is sort of...
It looks posh.
This is positioned as your sort of artisanal. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brown sauce.
Your high-end sauce. Your high-end brown sauce.
High-end brown. Not heroin. Although, apparently, if it's as nice as people tell me, apparently...
Maybe it is.
It's like heroin.
Oh, dear.
So you might want to be careful when you eat it, because you don't want to get addicted.
Okay, I'm 9 parts excited.
Yeah.
1 part terrified that this is like a mistake to record. Like
Why?
Like this is going to be a real raw gut reaction.
Yeah. This is genuine stuff.
Me eating brown sauce for the first time.
But what I've done is I've put them in 2 different bowls, and you don't know which one's which. And we've got a small tub of cocktail sausages. I got the fancy ones, not the bog standard ones, and they were like £1 more. Tiptree's is about £2.20 a bottle, I think, and your standard brown is less than that. I can't remember. I don't even look at the label because I'm just like, I want it. Give it to me. So
just inject it into my body. I don't care.
Yeah, just smother me in it. I would like you to try them both with a little sausage, and I want to hear your reactions. This is the most exciting thing that's happened yet on Desert Island Tips. So you're going for pot number. Let's call that 1.
Pot 1.
The first one that you're using.
That's weird. It's like
weird.
It's like a more savory ketchup.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying I dislike it.
Okay.
But
Good.
It's like it lingers. It has like it sticks with you.
I'm going to try some now as well. I see what you mean, actually. That is quite ketchupy, that one.
Yeah.
I feel like I've given away which one's which now, but never mind. Okay, try number 2. Same sausage. Interesting. Is that for continuity's sake?
Yes, I don't want to taint the control group by going for a different sausage.
Because it might be the sausage that's changing the flavour.
That is very vinegary.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Nope.
No.
No.
A big no. But what? But the other one?
Pot A felt like I was just eating a savory ketchup. Like it kind of almost tasted like a ketchup that's been left out in the sun a bit too long.
It looks redder, actually.
Yeah.
It looks more, yeah.
Pot B.
It's like a terracotta sauce.
Pot B, which I'm assuming is the HP sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Very vinegary.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost to the point where it's just a bit too pungent for my taste buds. Like I'm not into it.
Well,
this is heartbreaking. I feel like I've genuinely let you down as a human being.
Well, I mean, as an immigrant, even though you do have
I have no land.
the citizenship, I'm not hugely surprised. I think that HP sauce is quite a British thing. And it's like a citizenship test.
Like I feel
so you
like
better be careful because you might get kicked out now. When what are they called? Immigration hear this episode because I believe they are subscribers.
I just feel like the HP sauce is like it's still like tart and in my mouth. Like it's just like it's not going anywhere. Like
it is an aggressive condiment. Yeah.
Like there's not a lot I would think to mix that with naturally.
Sausages.
Like, yeah, I understand now the comment of like, ooh, I have it with sausages and I'd have it with bacon on bread. Because like if you were trying to put that flavor profile into like any other type of food, it's just so aggressive that it would take over.
Does that picture of someone having a lobster with HP sauce surprise you even
more?
Oh
my God. What were they thinking? You should never have this with lobster.
Well,
you should never have no. This should never be had with like lobster, steak, any sort of seafood.
Seafood and brown sauce seems weird to me. Yeah.
Like if you
pie, it's good with pie.
I could see maybe a pie. I could actually see it having with chips. Like
for me, it's fine with chips, but it's not a ketchup.
No, but it's like the same people who would
if you've run out of ketchup, you can have brown sauce.
Yeah, but like the same people who would like vinegar on their chips would like brown sauce on their chips.
Because as if they haven't got enough.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I think it's quite clear then that
I'm not a fan and I'm so sorry.
If we'd done more episodes, then this wouldn't be on your island.
No, I don't think I would put it next to mayonnaise.
Because we've already got...
But the thing is that I'm not discounting it in the way that I think mayonnaise is just kind of like a filler condiment just to lubricate a sandwich. Yeah. Like I think this has like a definite flavor profile to it. And I think there is like definite use for it on the condiment scale. I'm not trying to like slag off brown sauce in any way. I'm very respectful of your opinion. It's just
and my culture.
Yeah, and your culture. It's just not for me.
I think maybe that's a good thing, because otherwise it would be a bit of sort of cultural appropriation if you were trying to take on my brown sauce and make it your own thing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's where we've landed in the great brown sauce taste-off of 2017. One question I didn't ask you. Yeah. We had the two sauces. Pot A was clearly the high-end sauce.
A is the Tiptree.
Pot B was the HP.
Is your standard HP.
The king. What would you pick over the two?
Now, this is interesting because they do taste different enough that I will... I mean, I've got a whole bottle of it now, the Tiptree,
sure.
So I will finish that.
Yeah, I wouldn't like throw it in the bin. It's very nice and pleasant, but it doesn't have...
But it isn't like... It's not like, oh, they're not interchangeable, definitely.
No.
That one does taste... I get what... Your ketchup reference makes sense to me. I can taste that in there.
It's almost like the high-end expensive one has like more of like a sugary vinegar balance that you would find with ketchup, where it's not as overpowering.
Yeah, it's less
Whereas
vinegar,
like
isn't it?
The HP is just like, why don't you open up your mouth and shove some vinegar down your throat in a socially acceptable thick sauce?
I think that's it. The delivery method is better, isn't it? Like if you pour vinegar onto your plate to dip your sausages in, you're going to lose it. But you can put HP sauce on the plate and it stays where it was. Actually, it does move around a bit.
Yeah, but not in the same way.
But not in the same way as vinegar.
Yeah.
So that's on the island by default, but may leave your island when we've got enough episodes in the bag. Do let us know what you think of HP sauce or brown sauce generally. If you're some sort of monster and you prefer daddies, do let us know. We're on Twitter at Desert Island Dip.
Single dip.
Character limits. We're also on Facebook, surprisingly, Desert Island Dip.
You can like us there.
There's plurals there, and you can like them. And that's HP sauce on the island with ketchup and mayo. We'll be back next time with a festive special.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. I'm so excited.
We should put some like sleigh bells in here.
Oh, I'm already going to do that. Get your sound effects ready. Emily Elias is coming to town. So yeah, for me, Emily Elias, it's goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me as well. What's my name?
Tom Wiggins.
Yes.
Nailed it.